Welcome all, Coleman Report Live, week 5. Lance Sexton, you're still working.
Hey, Bob, I wish everybody would have been on our webinar yesterday, because at the end, Chris Hearn asked me to handicap when the shutdown was going to be over. I'm feeling a little uneasy about my prediction yesterday, Bob.
Which was?
February 15th.
And he played Price is Right and went February 14th, and I chose not to participate. Hey, we have a special guest, Mike Thomas, chairman of Thomas USAF. Mike, you are doing the 2019 Puerto Rico Rural Lending Investment Summit. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, Bob, this comes about, I'd say last November. You know, we do a lot of business in the Virgin Islands.
Right.
And Jose Rivera, who's the Puerto Rican director, okay, came to our seminar on CF and BNI, and he asked me to come to Puerto Rico and to put together a team of people that could, one, bring lenders to Puerto Rico, and two, bring investors to Puerto Rico. So over the last couple of months, Natalie and I have put together and the agenda, and the sponsors of the program are Signature Bank, Touchmark Bank, my company, Thomas USAF, Byline Bank, and Live Oak Bank.
Mike, Puerto Rico is in a world of hurt. Give us a little overview of what's happened after the hurricane.
Well, not a lot. What happened is Puerto Rico's in a lot of hurt, and it also hurt a lot of their banks down there. In that I believe their delinquency rates in double digits. And as you know, over the years, their banks have never been much in the BNI or the SBA program. When they've stayed in, they've come in and then they've gone out.
Right.
And so they said, we need lenders and we need investors. So the sponsors are Signature, Touchmark, Byline, and Live Oak Bank, who want to do loans down there.
Right.
The investors, that's a harder thing for us because that's not our business, but we're inviting all the investors we can. And we get in, let's say, the night of the 6th. Some people may make it a whole week. I think my daughter's going to do that. And the event is at the Condado Plaza Hilton. It's on the ocean. And we're able to get it at a good enough rate that it qualified for the government rate.
Well, it's under $200 a night, which is awesome. Mike, what's it cost to register for the event?
It doesn't cost you anything to register for the event. The sponsors are paying all the fees and all the putting on all the events.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Yes. Most people will get in by Wednesday night, and a lot of people are not going back till Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Try to put a little fun in it too. And Ozu, the district director, is going to open it up.
Right.
Ask Linda McMahon, the administrator, come in, but it's hard to talk to people at SBA now. So she's been invited, but we don't know. Okay. Betty Brand then is picking up, and this is confirmed, and she's the administrator of RBS. Joseph Ben Israel, he's going to go over the community facility program. And Mark Brozinski, Betty's deputy, is going to cover the BNI program. We're also Aaron Morris is going to cover the USDA energy programs, and Edna Primrose is going to cover the water and waste programs. After that, we're going to get into something, and it's over, I think 97% of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone. Wow. So we're having a little session on opportunity zones, and basically what opportunity zones allow you to bring in investors that have capital gains, and they're able to defer them at least for so many years, or if they're in there for 10 years, they pay no capital gain when they get it out.
Well, that's a great program. We're going to definitely follow up with that. Also, Mike, you got the governor of Puerto Rico going, and also Congresswoman Jennifer Gonzalez-Colon, which I'm going to be interviewing you.
I do have the governor's invited. I have not had that confirmed, but Josu, the The state director says he will get them. And the congresswoman, I've never met her, but we're looking forward to her. And she is on the Small Business Committee. So that will be
in the House. She is, yes.
After that, we're going to have some panel discussions about coming to Puerto Rico, how you come about it. Some of the things I've found out that they need down there very badly is that their landfills were all at capacity. Most of them are rural. And the hurricane, they were sort of screwed up before the hurricane, but I think like 26 or 29 of them are rural, and they need to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
So we're looking for lenders that want to do landfill loans, and there's some special money allocated to that out of the disaster thing. In addition, Puerto Rico has a lot of sun. And it's my observation that any business that uses over a megawatt a day probably should have their own solar system, and the solar systems down there would qualify under the USDA REAP program. We've done a couple REAP loans on St. Croix, and basically if you're a business, you'd probably have your solar system, you'd have batteries, and then you'd back it up with propane, so you'd be independent and off the grid. And one of the reasons we recommend that is every time there's a hurricane in these islands, the grid's always
goes down. Yeah.
And it took them some places for 9 months to get it back up. And the next hurricane, my predictions, it'll fall apart. And they have a lot of pharmaceutical companies down there, so I think those people ought to look at it being independent with their own. And it's our experience that it's 30 cents a kilowatt in Puerto Rico. You can probably do it for less than 10 if you're efficient. And we have, all these loans that Vassar is doing for Live Oak and the Duke Power and out Oregon Power and stuff like that. They're making the solar at 5.5 cents a kilowatt. So
right.
You don't have to be the most efficient, but with the high price of electricity down there, solar is the way to go. And I'm not saying wind isn't part of it too. Also, I think if you can cut a deal with them, and they're trying to privatize the energy system there, now government owned, and they're trying to make it a private corporation, hopefully with a good good financial track record. And if that's the case, if you can negotiate a good price to sell it into their grid, I think there's a lot of solar fields that could be down there because there's lots of open land that you could build a solar field. So that would be another thing I'd look at. And you have all your tourist businesses, you have everything else down there, and so to me, Puerto Rico's a beautiful island. I first learned how to scuba dive down there over 40 years ago. So,
Mike, you've done a great job in putting this together. You and your team, Natalie. I've been to the one in Atlanta, Washington D.C. This is for SBA. It's for USDA BNI. USDA BNI has totally committed to this. All the players are going to be there. Even if you have an interest in BNI lending, get down there. It's free to register, and the rooms are less than $200 a night. Mike, thank you very much for joining us. We will have this information on our website. In fact, Joseph, put together the link and put that in the GoToWebinar dashboard. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Oh, Friday afternoon, there's a golf tournament.
That's
Everyone
right.
wants to play golf, so we're saying we'll put a little fun there. Each night there will be a dinner party on the Thursday night when we kick off. And a lot of people are just saying, if I'm going down there, why not bring my family, kids and stuff like that, and stay there and enjoy Puerto Rico, because it's quite enjoyable. And the weather's a lot better than most places are right now. So
The selling benefit for March and the first week in Puerto Rico is definitely a benefit. Mike, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Lance, I believe you were one in Washington, D.C. Mike does a great job, so if you get a chance to do that. Hey, let's go to the poll questions. Let's talk about interim financing, which is why I know the majority of you here. Are you considering it?
Well, Bob, I think it's certainly something that most participant lenders are starting to consider strongly. Some are already doing it, but had a great webinar yesterday talking about how to do it properly. We don't know how long the shutdown's going to last, but interim financing is certainly a tool that you can use to help the small businesses in your area.
We're gonna push our link in a second for the webinar yesterday. For those of you who said no, there are lenders who are willing to take your transactions and pay you a fee if you don't want to do interim financing. Harvest, New Tech are two of them. They were on our webinar yesterday. So if you aren't comfortable with doing the financing yourself, you may choose just to hand that relationship off to someone else. And for those of you who said interim financing, Lance and Harvest and Brent Trulino, Chris Hearn, they did a great job yesterday. We're going to push that link in a second. Second poll question. 504.
You know, for 504 lenders, they're used to interim financing. I mean, it's a little different without SBA in place. And certainly Chris Hearn from Fountainhead Capital had a great alternative there.
Yeah. And New Tech's also in there. You know, these guys, usually what you're seeing is the non-bank lenders do not have the compliance restrictions that the lenders do. So the non-bank lenders are the ones who are leading the charge on this. I'm not, I know Wells Fargo's doing it and Bank of the West, and there's other major lenders that are doing it as well. But those options are out there. And the last poll question, which is sort of the takeaway from our webinar yesterday, can an interim 7A loan be processed POP within 90 days of that interim note date?
Well, and I look forward to the responses, Bob. We both know the answer because we're SOP addicts, I guess. But yeah, you absolutely can do an interim loan and use your delegated POP status to take out that interim loan as long as the interim loan is not more than 90 days from the date of getting an SBA loan number. And hardly anybody believes that SBA will not be back in business within 90 days. So it's not a straight refinance. If you've got a good deal, you can do an interim loan. We do recommend that you structure it similar to, or exactly, I like to see a structure mirror image to what the SBA loan would be. And you can use POP processing on taking out that interim loan and putting the SBA guarantee on.
We got a ton of questions. Let's get to them. Number one, if I make a bridge loan, must I use the 7A takeout using my POP authority, or can I do a GP?
Yeah, you can go either way. Well, you know, I don't see, you're going to use the same prudent lending process that you would normally. If it would normally be a POP loan and you do a bridge loan and it's less than 90 days, use your POP processing. If you've got any concerns at all about eligibility, it would be a great time to consider GP processing. Now, everybody, Brent, myself, and Bob, we all believe that when SBA goes back to work, GP processing, which normally takes less than 10 days, is probably going to balloon out to 20 or 30 days. So
I think so. It's going to be over 30. That's my.
So, I mean, the important thing here, Bob, I'm a small business advocate. We need to prepare our small business borrowers for those time delays.
We have we didn't ask the poll question, but yes, you can fund a SBA loan where you have a valid loan number back in December. This is a situation. They have the authorization. They're starting to fund it, but there's some errors in it, Lance. There's some misspelling, and the guarantee fee is, go to the next slide, guys. And
this is
can we close on this loan? With
errors? Of a tough one, Bob. You know, you can still go in E-Tran and do things. So something as simple as a misspelt name is pretty easy. You can go ahead and fix it in E-Tran now and save it, and that's fine. Your guarantee fee being wrong is something that is somewhat discomforting for me. I would want the guarantee fee to be correct. A lot of it is depending on what the guarantee fee change. You know, if you've already paid the guarantee fee,
which it says it has, yeah,
and the correction is the guarantee fee is actually lower than what you've paid,
you're okay.
I don't have a lot of discomfort with going ahead and moving forward with that deal. If the guarantee fee has been paid and you owe, certainly you would want to submit the extra monies to pay.gov. But I have a little less comfort on one where the guarantee fees more than as opposed to less than.
Here we have an interesting question from Sylvester. Unfortunately, one of his Main Street franchise borrowers got caught up into this maelstrom. And he said, hey, we have an email, and Lance and I have seen the email from the SBA franchise team that have signed off on the new franchise. But before they could put it up in the directory, we got shut down. And Sylvester asked Lance, can we process the loan on an interim basis? What you tell him, Lance?
Well, I looked at the letter received, and it was very clear that SBA had approved it. They even indicated that an addendum was not needed. And they even told him what it was going to be listed as on the franchise directory. I think I'm going to go ahead and move forward with that loan with a laminated copy of that email. I want to memorialize that email and put it in file. I think they'll be fine.
And remember, we had a couple of overriding themes from yesterday. Number one, the SOP is silent on how to structure these 7A loans. And Lance and I went through and gave a number of recommendations, but we said follow the prudent lending standard. That's the overriding factor on these transactions. And the second one is, hey, risk is risk, and you fully bear 100% of the risk. But I use the analogy, it's truly no different than having the guarantee and then having a potential repair or denial. I would put it all in that same thought process. So I'm encouraging you, don't be scared of this, but do your job right.
Well, one of the things that came out in the webinar yesterday, Brent and I both agree, and Bob, I know you agree, SBA is not going to play gotcha after the shutdown's over. SBA, I went through a couple of shutdowns when I worked at SBA. SBA is going to be very reasonable in working through situations with lenders after the shutdown's over.
Very good. Brad asked the question, what can we do a back-to-back interims? And the answer is no. You do 90 days, and then we can go ahead and do, no, you can't do another 90. But we do go through and says, okay, if we can't refinance that interim POP, then it becomes a debt refinance. And again, don't shy away from that. It's debt refinance of same institution debt. You can do it. You have to do it GP, and you have to follow the rules. But again, for purchase money transactions of real estate, I think this makes a lot of sense. And in particular cases, I would not shy away from it. Hey, Tom asked the question. Interest rates. Go ahead, Lance.
One thing, Bob, that we talked about yesterday, that two of the participants were talking about what they're doing. And one was doing 4-month deals, one was doing 6. As I think about it, when you do these interim loans, you probably should do a 6-month.
Yeah, that's Chris says he does 6 months. Interest rates. Tom said, hey, these are interim loans. Can I charge prime plus 3? And your sage advice, Lance, is? I
say don't do it. I say keep in line with what the SBA maximum interest rates are. There are a lot of things in SBA where they're looking at what your intent was. If you price it at prime plus 3, you're telling SBA you don't really believe that you're going to get an SBA guarantee. If you price it at prime plus 2 3/4, that's in line with SBA interest rate maximum. And that tells the SBA, yeah, we do intend to take this out with an SBA loan.
Both Harvest and New Tech price it in that prime 2, 2.5, 2 3/4 range. They also collect the fees similar to the guarantee fee. And Harvest does a prepayment penalty similar to the 531. So all of that is in play. And I think the more you mirror that interim transaction with the final transaction, the better off you're going to be. The SOP is very clear, Lance. They do not want the lender to be absolved of a loss to the SBA financing. And these transactions are clearly interim financing. That's why we're calling it that.
Well, one of the things I like that I heard yesterday is Harvest talking about a prepayment penalty. If you're going to step out and do an interim loan, there need to be some caveats that say, hey, you're going to stick with us once SBA goes back to work and we can process it.
CC just said, hey, what about the 10% reduction? CC, that goes away because these are balloon notes, so we don't have to worry about that. We got 2 questions that have come in. Thank you. Crystal says, can you use PLP authority to take out an interim loan that included construction financing? The problem is, Crystal, it's that 90-day window. So construction finance, go ahead, Lance.
Construction financing is excluded in the interim lending that you can do and then process as PLP.
What is your opinion regarding SB handling SB loan docs, personal financial statements, business statements for loan apps in the queue? I can't remember how the agency handled reporting issues during the last shutdown.
You're talking about financials that are collected in servicing or for the application?
For the application.
Well, we talked about this yesterday. You're going to collect a set of financial statements for the interim loan, and if the shutdown lasts long enough, you may have to collect a new set of financials and do a quick scrub on the new set of financials for the SBA loan. I think a lot of it depends on how long the shutdown lasts. If my February 15th works out, there's not going to be a problem, Bob. But, you know, if it lasts for an extended period of time, you're going to need the current financials that match the SBA requirements when you submit the SBA loan.
Changing the subject, we do our franchise reporting, and we get this from time to time. I know many of you order the report, and the situation comes up with Meineke. And here we have our table that shows 3 different franchise names on a Meineke. Guys, can we go to that slide, please? There we go. And the question came in and said, hey, why is this? Well, look at that bottom number. Meineke Car Care, there's 80 loans. They have a charge-off rate of 13% and 11% charge-off by dollars. Well, these numbers are through the recession. These are horrible numbers for a franchise. So what they've done is they've come up with new franchise codes, and that's why now you have Meineke showing much better numbers. We have chosen editorially to break it all out and not combine it, and I encourage the lenders, when you see this, and there's a number of these institutions to do that, to go ahead and combine them. And I think, Lance, next year, there's only a handful. I think for the 2019 report, we will go ahead and give them the alternative numbers. But I think it's important to break it out. Plus, if they have gotten religion and they're getting their act together, I think we need to give them credit for that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know we're running out of time. Those are the secondary market quotes. We have those out there. There's no weekly change. We're still soliciting compensation survey results until the end of the month. And hey, this is the pitch. If you want the link, it's on there. It's on-demand viewing. Send it to Joseph. You can watch it. It is awesome. We're pitching this, but this is awesome material. It tells you exactly how to do the interim loan, how to do Plan B, how to do the debt refinance, how to do all the things we recommend in 7A, because the SOP is very clear in 504 what to do. It's unclear in 7A. So you have Lance, you have Brent Trulino, you had Adam Siri of Harvest telling what they do and how they structure it. So if that's of interest to you, the price is $389. Get it over to Joseph. We'll do that. Lance is doing his webinar next week on Periscore. We're doing equity injection and, of course, assisted living. And with that, Lance, a lot of information. We'll see you next week. And keep the questions coming. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.